Hey everyone, Mitch coming up with the Commander Scores Studio. Welcome to the show. So, they did it. They printed a card that I think is going to be incredibly popular. There are a lot of tribal decks out there, and there's a lot of tribal decks in Magic. And yeah, this is, well, kind of a big deal because there are certain commanders out there that themselves would really like this card, and there are certain tribal commanders out there that are like, oh my goodness, first pick, throw that in the deck. And things get absolutely crazy. So with all that said, let's jump into it with Mobile Throne, a pretty cool design for a card. Kind of like, hey, like I'm walking around, yeah, sit on me. Yeah, just I'm such a big deal that I've got a throne that has to move around. I'm not just sitting in one spot, I'm moving around. Kind of reminds me of like Wild Wild West. Anyone seen that terrible movie? Anyways, did you know Will Smith actually chose to do Wild Wild West instead of The Matrix? Regardless, 4/4 Golem that costs 4 that says Ward 2. So, great protection there. On top of that, when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. So, yeah, pick whatever you want. Again, it is a tribal card because this is a variable creature type. Because when this enters the battlefield, well, you choose that, and it is the chosen type, just other types. So again, if you're in a Merfolk deck, it's also a Merfolk. If you're in a Goblin deck, also a Goblin. But most importantly, and why this card I think is going to see a ton of play and won't be anywhere near budget friendly for me, is because it says if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, that ability triggers additional time. So essentially, hey, if you're in, again, a Goblin deck and you say Goblin, every single one of your Goblins that has a triggered ability now doubles. And again, this is a Goblin, so this will also trigger whatever Goblin things. You're like, hey, when a Goblin comes into play, this happens. Yeah. This is essentially just double up triggers for every single tribal deck that cares about any kind of triggers. And if you have a tribal deck, I recommend just looking through your list, whether again it's a vampire deck, whether it's a goblin deck, whether it's a merfolk deck, whether it's a nightmare deck, whatever. I was going to say Night Stalker was the weird one I was thinking of. Anyway, that is a creature type. If you are looking through that deck and you're like, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I've got like 20 triggers. Yeah, it doubles up a ton. So just look through your list and see how many creatures that you have of that tribe that trigger. You might have quite a few out there. And yeah, this is just, again, there are certain commanders out there that just have an incredible triggered ability that you're going to be like, yeah, I just would love to just double that up as well. So even if it's not a tribal deck, this can already just be great for those kinds of commanders that have incredible, triggers essentially. And then also again for the commanders themselves that have great triggers, that also are a tribal commander that also has a lot of creatures that have great triggers. This can just get out of hand in absolutely no time. Again, I think this is going to be a decently popular card. Typically when they print something that's like, yeah, friendly for any kind of a tribal deck and can fit in any tribal deck because it is a colorless card, think like Vanquisher's Banner, etc., etc. Yeah, it tends to be quite popular because Herald's Horn as well. Because, again, it has so many applications that it's pretty insane. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be on that level, but, this is quite the card. One that is incredibly powerful. One that can make super powerful commanders even more powerful. And, again, one that can just slot into an absurd amount of tribal decks out there. Yeah, check your list, essentially. Check your tribal list and see, okay, how many creatures actually have triggered abilities, including if the commander has one. Definitely consider that. So, yeah, this is going to be a crazy card. Let's talk about some commanders really quick that really, really are going to want this one. First up, we've got Myrim. I still never know how to say that. Sentinel Worm, a 6/6 Dragon Spear with Flying and Ward 2 for 6 mana in Temur. Whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a token that's a copy of it, except the token is not legendary, but the dragon is legendary. Basically, it doubles up every single one of your dragons, including your legendary dragons, by making them not legendary. And now with this, it's going to triple them instead because, hey, you get that golem into play, the Mobile Throne, and you're like, yeah, all of a sudden, Myrim just doubles. And then also keep in mind, of course, there are dragons with ETBs as well. Those double too. Yeah, it's going to get kind of crazy with this kind of a commander. Again, doubling up the tokens and doubling up those triggers that those dragons might have. Things are crazy with that. I mean, just think about even on ETB, like think about, okay, doubling up Niv Mizzix, all right? And then getting a second one. And then you're like, okay, cool. Whenever opponents, whichever the one where it's like, hey, if an opponent casts instant sorcery or any, whatever, you draw a card. Yeah, absurd amounts of card draw, absurd amounts of pinging, absurd amounts of nibs in play. Craziness can happen. So again, the potential for this, again, is just absolutely absurd. At a base level, it's like, hey, you got a commander that might want this, that has a great triggered ability, great. But on top of that, again, if you've got a tribal deck that has a commander that has a triggered ability and a lot of creatures in that of that tribe that have triggered abilities as well, have fun with all that math. A lot of crazy things going to be happening. Moving on, Vina Lich Queen, a 4/4 zombie wizard with a zombie tribal commander deck. Whenever you attack with one or more zombies, draw that many cards, and discard that many cards, you gain that much life. Pay 2, exile 2 card to graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie. Anyways, what is important here is obviously that attack trigger. That is a trigger, so yeah, you're going to be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll draw that many cards, discard that many cards, gain that much life, and then do it a second time, gaining an absurd amount of life, drawing an insane amount of cards, probably getting triggers from that as well. You know, maybe like an effect that's like, hey, when you draw this many cards, do this. Also, discarding, you can get value out of it too, like a not Sangromancer, that's for your opponents. The Waste Not One, Bone Miser, there we go. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to take advantage of that. Also, ways to take advantage of life gain, and by doubling it all up, you get an absurd amount of effects. And of course, getting things in your graveyard in a zombie deck is usually going to be a good thing. So yeah, again, zombies are also a tribe that has a decent amount of triggers as well. Yeah, so you also are going to have other creatures that care about when things happen, and you're going to be doing some pretty absurd things, so have fun. Moving on. This one doubles in 2 ways. Alenda the Dusk Rose, a 1/1 vampire knight. Yeah, vampire tribal, not knight tribal, although I'm sure you could maybe go that way, but more vampire tribal. For 4 mana in Orzhov, whenever another creature dies, you get a counter on this. Of course, that's going to double now because you're going to say, hey, yeah, my golem, my mobile throne says vampire. So all of a sudden, that doubles. Now I'm getting 2 counters on this for the price of 1. And again, that's when any creature dies, not just my own. On top of that, when Alenda dies, you create X/1/1 white vampire creature with lifelink or X Alenda's power. That is going to be doubled now. That also is doubled. So again, you're doubling up those counters. You're doubling up the death triggers. You're basically getting 4 times as many vampire tokens as you would be just in a normal scenario. And again, you also get all the other, you know, triggers with your golem. So essentially, you're like, okay, yeah, choose vampire. Oh, that doubles up my blood artist all of a sudden. So now I'm draining my opponents for 2 instead of 1. So yeah, just look through your list because like Alenda, you might find that, hey, a lot of my vampires have a lot of fantastic triggers. Moving on, one that's going to become even more popular, I am sure, with all these new dinosaurs coming out. Gish-S on Zavatar. Yeah, dinos. Players love dinos. And this new golem can be fantastic in it. When it has Trample, Vigilance, and Haste, when it deals counters to a player, reveal that many cards top your library, put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them on the battlefield, the rest of them on your library in random order. Now this one, I will say, kind of, this is a little bit, got to be careful because obviously you're not going to get it off the top. It is technically a golem. It's not a dinosaur until it comes into play, so you can't just put it into play with this trigger. That being said, if you have the mobile throne in play with Gish-S, have fun. Because again, let's say you hit an opponent just to make it easy, 4/7, you get through an opponent, cool. You get to reveal that many cards off top your library twice and then put that many dinosaurs, or put all the dinosaurs you want essentially into play. So basically doubling that up can be absurd. Obviously, again, there's a lot of other fantastic dinosaur triggers to double up as well. And we're going to be seeing more and more, I am sure, in this set. We've already seen one really good one. We're probably going to see even more. But yeah, Gish-S, definitely a good call. And then finally, when it comes to like another tribal commander like Kalia the Vast, obviously this one go in a couple of different tribal directions. This one you got to be careful with it, and I do want to point this out because it is a human cleric. So yes, you can choose. It depends on kind of how you're going about this. And you might want to, again, be careful with it. When it attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand on the battlefield tapped attacking that opponent. So basically, if you want to double up Kalia, obviously you need to choose either human or cleric. You're not, you know, choosing any, unfortunately, of the angels, demons, or dragons. That being said, depending on the situation, sure, okay, let's double up. I've got a lot of angels and dragons and demons in my hand, so I want to get those out. I want to double that out. I want to get an absurd amount of creatures into play quickly. Or on the other hand, if you're already set up with a good amount of, you know, again, if you're an angel tribal, demon tribal, whatever you're in tribal, in play, you can say, okay, like they actually in play have a good amount of triggers, so I'm actually going to get my golem into play, choose one of those creature types essentially, and double up those triggers. Okay, I maybe only have one creature in my hand that I want to cheat out with Kalia at this point. Maybe it's going to be one at a time. That's fine. So just keep that in mind. Again, there kind of is a little tricky aspect to it where it's not doubling up every single one of your creatures, right? When it comes to a commander that does not match up with the tribal component, but still, it can be a very exciting prospect. Moving on, kind of along those same lines, how about like Atla Palani? Now, Atla Palani is not really a tribal commander, but kind of is a tribal commander in a way where yeah, having a lot of eggs in play is great, and being able to double up an egg trigger is also really cool. Atla Palani Nest enters a 2/3 human shaman, pay 2, tap, you make a 0/1 egg with defender. Whenever an egg you control dies, your card to the top of your library to a creature card. The card on the battlefield, the rest of related random order. So essentially, yeah, you're not choosing egg, you'd be choosing either human or shaman, depending on if you have probably more humans or shamans. Most likely probably more humans in your deck if you have an Atla Palani deck that, I mean, maybe you got more shamans, I don't know. Anyways, being able to double up Atla Palani's trigger is pretty incredible because you're like, okay, cool. I get this egg, I sacrifice it or take it out in some way. All of a sudden, I double that trigger up and I'm getting 2 creatures for free off the top of my library for the price of 1 egg, which is a ton of value. So, yeah, this could be very good with this kind of a commander as well. Again, it is more focused on the actual commander's trigger versus probably other creatures in the deck. So just do keep that in mind. Though, again, if you don't have any humans in the deck, maybe some really big humans that have some great, ETBs or other kinds of triggers that you want to double up, great, you can choose those as well, or again, shamans too. So that's another option. And yet another one. This one is actually a pretty fun one. Orvar. Orvar, the R form, incredibly powerful. 3/3 changeling. So this one is every single creature type. It does not matter what creature type you choose with the mobile throne. So again, depending on what other creatures might be in your deck, and they might have triggers, choose one of those. Choose the most popular out of all of those, because again, it doesn't matter what you choose. You can choose Night Stalker, and that's fine. That works with this. Whenever you cast in source spell, if it targets one or more of the permanents you control, create tokens, copy one of those permanents. Being able to double that up is pretty crazy. It's already a really broken, essentially, effect, and now doubling it up, even more broken, even more crazy things can happen. Yeah, you really don't need, oh gosh, I just thought about, oh my goodness. Yeah, utilizing Orvar. I just thought about this, and I should have thought about it earlier, but hey, okay, a mobile throne play, cool. Cast a spell that targets the mobile throne, creating 2 more copies of it. Do it again and again. Oh my goodness, how gross, how absurd. Oh, okay, that's just, at least a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, Orvar, definitely a card that Orvar might want to consider, so make sure you're looking into that. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's my turn here from you, so yeah, give me your thoughts on the mobile throne. I think it's a very, very, very cool card. Again, one that unfortunately, it's probably never going to be anywhere near budget friendly because, again, like those kind of tribal applicable cards that can just be very good in like any kind of a tribal deck. Yeah, I mean, this one has a little more limitation to it because there are certain tribes out there that you might not have, tribal decks, I should say, that might not have all that many triggers in the deck, or a commander that actually has a trigger that you care about or has a trigger at all. So yes, I mean, there is a bit more limitation to this than like a Herald's Horn, but still the application for this can be absolutely absurd. And unlike, other tribal specific cards, this one again can just fit in with a commander that really wants to double up its own trigger, doesn't really care about potentially other triggers, like again, maybe an Orvar. So yeah, this card I think has a good amount of potential, can do some pretty crazy things. Again, protect itself, it can apply to a lot of things. Not looking forward to going up against this, and again, in the Myrim Sentinel Worm deck, or again, an Orvar deck, because that can be pretty disgusting. So yeah. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one. Make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.